Hey friends, this week we are going over the old tune Over the Rainbow. I'm sure all of you as uke players are familiar with Dia's version of this, but we're talking about the Judy Garland version, the original. And yes, it has a lot more chords in it, but those chords create such a great foundation to support this melody, and it's really one of the most beautiful tunes that I know of. So to start out, the little intro section that I do in here, I've linked it down below. It's the same exact intro section that I use in the solo pieces. So I've just attached those tabs to this. It's really just a little 3-chord finger picking exercise, and it's exactly the same as we have in the outro of this. So I'm not going to go over just that little bit as it's mostly open strings for you. So looking at the tab is better than me rambling about it. But what I do want to go over is a couple different chord voicings that aren't in the chart or the video here that I like to substitute out to support the melody a little bit more, as well as mostly talking about the time of this song. This song is a ballad, which means that it's in the slower realm of how we play songs. And humans are not really the best at keeping steady times, especially as we go down lower and lower in tempo. So Over the Rainbow is rather slow. It's going to sound like this. Somewhere over the rainbow. That's rather slow. But what I'm thinking in my head is not 1, 2, 3, 4. Much like we talked about in the lesson this week on swung eighth notes, I'm keeping a constant triplet subdivision in my head. So when I'm playing this, what I'm really thinking is this. And you'll note, because I'm thinking that triplet subdivision, we can swing those eighth notes really nicely as opposed to thinking of just an eighth note subdivision. But it's also forcing our brain to put more notes into the beat. And we can more easily keep the time that way by doing these slower things with thinking of more notes in the beat, as opposed to having a large gap in between each and every note. So I want you to do when you're practicing this is to just sing the triplets while you're playing the chords. Don't worry about the lyrics, don't worry about the melody even, because what we really want to do is keep this short and concise. Another thing that you can do is turn on a metronome. I love, if you have either Android or iPhone, any of the mobile platforms really, Soundbrender has a great free app that allows you to have it tick the 1, 2, 3, 4 pulse as well as the triplet pulse underneath. And what you can do is start practicing with that triplet pulse. And then slowly, as you get used to it, you can set it so that the triplet pulse is only on, say, beats 1 and beats 3. And then we'll come through and get it down. So in our brain, we're still thinking that triplet, but our metronome is only giving us 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a very common problem to rush when we are playing slower tunes, and practicing like this at home and really being honest with the time is what's important in this. So it's something you need to work on this week. Just to really play this song and other ballads properly, to keep this time really held back, especially when you're playing by yourself versus playing with other people, to have no one else to interact with. Now, a couple other things. As we go through, the main beginning of this is exactly what's written on the page, no fancy chords. But if we jump ahead, when we get to the E minor 7th, down to the A 7th, so it's the second time that we hit the E minor 7th. The majority of the time when we are playing an A 7th chord in this song, you'll note that the melody goes from E up to an F. So what we can do as an A 7th chord is we play an A 7th, and then on the second beat of this, just to create a little movement to the harmony, we can play an A 7th sharp 5, which all that means is we're playing our regular A 7th chord, open, 1, open, open. But then we are adding our second finger on the first fret of our E string to that F right there, giving us that. So you can hear the melody in there. That's our melody note right there, and we're supporting it by throwing it in on this. Now, the other odd chord voicing in this one is when we go to the B flat chord in here, after the D minor 7th. What I like to really do on this is actually play a B flat 9th chord, which maintains the C in the top of the D minor 7th, and it makes this B flat change less jarring. We're borrowing this B flat from another key, and it can be really in your face and come very unexpected. But by playing the 9th in here without any dominance, the way we would voice this is 3, 2, 1, 3. So if you're coming from a D minor 7th, there's only one note change here. You just need to bring your second finger over to account for the D on the 2nd fret of your C string, and then the ring finger will come on the B flat on the 3rd fret of your G string. Everything else maintains the same. So I'm just going to play this 2 different ways. So I'm going to play what's on the page with the standard B flat, and then the B flat 9, omitting the dominant voice in there. So we have D minor 7th to B flat. But now this B flat 9, that common voice really makes that chord so much easier for our ear to digest. And little things like this on keeping those common tones to help support the harmony and the movement in there. These little changes, it's only one note, really makes a huge difference in playing this tune. It's much better than the B flat to keep the C up top. So try that. The other thing is the turnaround at the end of the first A section here. You can just play what's written on the page, which is C, G7, just like that. But what I like to do here is actually just a full turnaround. So one beat on each chord. You'll play C major, and then C diminished 7th, which will be 2, 3, 2, 3, like that. And then we'll play D minor 7th to G7. Harmonically, we're really doing the same thing. We're just adding a little extra spice to it. So our first turnaround would sound like this. But the spicy turnaround will sound like this. Like that. So you can do that in there. The other thing is when we get to the B section, we can use a couple different chord voicings just to make the voice leading better. The first section is just fine. So if we hop to the second line of the B section here, when we're going up to the F sharp fully diminished 7th chord, which we just used in the turnaround, it's essentially the same exact thing as a C diminished 7th chord, just we're calling it by a different name. When we get here, we're going next to a B7th chord, which we could play our standard B7th chord, which is 4, 3, 2 open, which is what's in the chart there and makes sense. But you can also play B7th chord by just lifting up your ring finger if you're playing a bar across the 2nd fret. My cat's running around like an idiot, and I don't know why. He's all over the place, back and forth. I don't know if you can hear him. He keeps going under my feet. So we can play this F sharp diminished 7th and just lift up the ring finger for this B7th and then straight to the E minor 7th, A7th. Turn around there. So again, just keeping more common tones in the chords. You want to think about these chord voicings when you're playing a tune with doing as little movement as possible. If we have notes in a chord that are the same, which are common tones, or ones that are very close to each other, we want to keep them there because that makes our harmony more concise and more accessible to the ear. You'll know if you play chords that don't contain a lot of the same notes or don't have notes near them, it's very jarring to the ear to do it. And especially in something like a ballad, we want to keep these harmonic vehicles very smooth, because when we're playing slowly, these weird changes kind of hop out more. Things like that D minor 7th to the B flat hop out very prominently to the ear. But by just adjusting one tone in here to help support the melody a little bit more, we can just we can make that less jarring to our ear. The other thing in this tune is, I believe I've talked about before on ballad playings, it's very nice to just use the pad of the thumb for ballads. Again, it's really just less of a stark contrast to the voice. It gives us a more mellow tone, and you can also drag the thumb just a little bit slower than you would with a normal string. So I'm going to play this for you 2 different ways, just the first few bars. This is how you could strum it with just the first finger. Like that, or we can do it with the thumb and just listen to the tonal difference here. The joy of the uke is that we can make these massive tonal changes by just using a different portion of our hand. You'll also note that dynamically I'm making a little change here. I am supporting beats 1 and 3 more prominently than I am 2 and 4. 2 and 4 are just light brushes across the string. And what I'm emulating here is a 2 feel in jazz where the bass would play on beats 1 and 3. in the head of a tune, especially, which lets the vocal melody just sing out a little bit more. The guitar would usually comp 1, 2, 3, 4 the entire time, but 2 and 4 would be just a little bit lighter. And this just lets the melody float over top a little bit more. I know these little things can seem silly sometimes, but focusing on these small things such as dynamics and small chord voicing changes are what's really going to bring you up to the next level in your musical playing. I'll see y'all next week.